bullets, baby.
This is beyond fairy tale. It's inconceivable.
There it is. Doyle's done it.
Eastgate steps into poker history.
This is the greatest sport in the world.
They are the two most memorable members of the November 9.
Panatello Theater might be renamed Dennis Phillips Stadium.
Peter Eastgate is our 2008 champion. And now their encore performance continues. World champion Peter Eastgate knows winning back-to-back titles is certainly within his grasp.
I'm in the top 100 right now, and now I have a very good shot at making the final table.
Dennis Phillips, with his entourage behind him, is even more confident in his abilities this year.
I guarantee you that right now I'm playing better poker than I did last year.
This dynamic duo's November 9 reunion, and their chance at history continues right now. Welcome back to the 40th Annual World Series of Poker, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky, along with Norman Chad. I'm Lon McCarran. As Day 6 continues, a field that began with almost 6,500 players is now down to just 100, and there are still some big names left in the field.
Stack 'em to the top. That's my baby.
Tom Schneider's biggest fan is cheering him on, while Phil Ivey remains upbeat with his supporters on the rail. Leo Margetts and Nicole Pepe are the last two women remaining, while still sitting prominently at the feature table are the two members of last year's November 9.
Last year, Peter Eastgate became the youngest main event champion ever. Now he's trying to become the first repeat champion in over 20 years. Meanwhile, Dennis Phillips is hoping for a Harrington-esque return to this year's final table.
They are now joined by Joe Seabach, who has made 2 World Series final tables, but each and every person in the room still looking up at the biggest stack, Billy Kopp, who has over 5 million chips.
Oh, they colored you up, huh?
And you see the new lavender chip that's in play.
Got some of the pretty ones. It's the only one on the table, right?
Yeah.
You better not be coming for him.
Yeah.
On the FullTiltPoker.net tournament ticker, you see the 4 chips in play. The new lavender chip is worth $100,000, and there are nearly 200 million chips in play. Action at this feature table begins on Ty Tran on the Jack Link's Beef Jerky Pocket Cam, Ace 4 of Hearts.
One day I will have a lavender chip, Lon. One day.
One day. 22-year-old from Houston raises the action to $77,000. The chip leader, Billy Kopp, with Queen Jack.
If you play Queen Jack, they take away your lavender chips.
He does fold. Dennis Phillips now. Ace 5 of spades.
The ace of spades, Lon, did you arrange for the prettiest card in the deck to be in the first hand to make me happy?
Just for you. He calls for $77,000. Joe Seabach now at this table. 10-6. Not this time. The defending champ, Peter Eastgate, still around. And the big blind, Trey Deuce.
Somewhat unplayable, for me anyway.
And he will not play those. Eastgate gets out of the way, leaving Tran and Phillips heads up. There's a good chance this will end up as a split pot. The flop is ace-deuce Trey, a pair of aces and a wheel draw for both. Phillips' kicker now looking good.
Lon, did you arrange to have such an interesting flop on our first hand to make me happy?
Eastgate would have flopped 2 pair if he'd stuck around. Tran checks.
I wonder if either player puts the other on an ace.
Phillips will try to get some answers and bets $150,000. Tran answers with a call.
So what do they know now? As usual, I have no answers.
So the turn card now is another ace.
Well, neither one can think the other has an ace now.
Tran is going to slow play his trips.
Yeah, he might be plotting a check raise he may regret.
Dennis Phillips now. He's going to slow play his.
I'm confused as usual.
It's a king of diamonds on the river. Phillips with a check mark with the 5 kicker.
Tran is beat, but I assume this is the time for him to attack.
Well, Tran just checks.
I am so confused by Tran. Then again, I am confused by daylight savings time.
Phillips is going to take a stab at it. $200,000.
Yeah, Dennis has to believe his 3 aces are good.
Tran makes the call. He has to think his 3 aces are best, but now he sees their second best.
But he just called on the river. Boy, Ty Tran saved a lot of chips there. He thought he might be beat, and he was right.
Never far from Dennis Phillips is his fan base, the Philippians, and you got a taste of that truck horn they lug around.
I don't want to hear that horn again unless I'm on I-70.
I think he thought I was sicker than you did.
Yeah, I'm thinking so too, but it's like, wow.
Dennis Phillips collecting chips. It's beginning to feel a lot like 2008 here at the Rio.
Norman, over the last 25 years, only 5 players have made back-to-back final tables in the main event. Dan Harrington, the only one to do it in the past decade. Yet 2 players not only have a chance to join this exclusive club, they could rewrite the record books.
Lon, Action Dan outlasted 3,400 players to go back-to-back in 03 and 04. Now we have Peter Eastgate and Dennis Phillips, each outlasting 13,000 over the last 2 years. If either makes it to the final table again, it would be beyond Harrington-esque. In fact, I've already trademarked Philippian Feet and Eastgate Encore.
That Philippian feat in full swing, Dennis, with 2.7 million chips, but Eastgate's Encore could use some help. He's riding the short stack. Let's take a look at how they compare to the rest of the field. Billy Kopp still the chip leader with over 5 million. Among the notables, Phil Ivey with 2.7 million. Leo Margetts and Nicole Pepe still hanging tough. Out in the field, pro Kenny Tran has all his chips at risk with his pocket sixes against the ace-9 suited of Grayson Ramage. And let's look at the flop. Ramage hit a pair of aces, but Tran a set of sixes.
Tran has this one pretty much locked up.
And an ace on the turn, make it some more exciting.
Turn card now is a jack, and Ramage drawing dead.
I like assignment in life.
I don't know if Ramage found it all that exciting to double up Kenny Tran.
Kenny Tran's going to need a couple of more double-ups to be a real threat once again in this field.
Kenny only has 16 big blinds right now.
At another table, Prahlad Friedman facing a $500,000 chip bet from Jonathan Tamayo on the river. Tamayo has the check mark with a set of sevens.
Tamayo graduated from Cornell. I guess he's smart.
Friedman turned a pair of queens.
Prahlad needs about half his remaining chips to call this.
Call.
And he will call. And he will say goodbye to those chips as Tamayo turns over the winner.
That hand hurt Prahlad a lot, and I will spare him my lecture about ace-queen.
And he will ship those chips across the felt to the 23-year-old Texan. And with that pot, he will be above the chip average in the room, while Prahlad Friedman continues to struggle. All right, let's get over to table 2, where 7-time bracelet winner Phil Ivey is at work with pocket jacks. Ivey just re-raised Hack Dang. Mel and Pat Humphreys usually see Phil get his chips in good, but he's trailing the 2 queens of Dang.
Dang, a 24-year-old pro at University of Virginia grad.
All right, I'm all in.
And he comes back over the top, all in.
300 more, was it?
Actually, it's 416 more.
I'll call. Go ahead.
He calls with the jacks. And Dang in good shape to double up through Ivey.
I don't like this, Lon. You had me in such a good mood earlier with the ace of spades, but now you got me watching Phil Ivey dominated.
Playing pocket jacks. All right, so Dang's queens. And now a set of jacks for Ivey to take the lead.
Oh, you got to feel for Dang. From a 4.5 to 1 favorite to 1 step out the door.
Wow. So Dang now looking for another queen, but it's a 5 on the turn.
And now Dang needs that queen, or he will be out of here.
The river card is a 7, and Ivey completes the bad beat.
Nice hack, nice clean.
Hack Dang out of here at 98th place.
When the best player gets lucky, it's lights out.
Ivey very gracious in victory. That bandwagon becoming a locomotive as his run for the final table gathers steam.
The World Series of Poker. 40th Annual Memories.
Barbara Enright was, one of the pioneers.
I'm the only woman to make the final table in the main event so far.
Well, the pressure really comes down on Barbara Enright.
She was ahead of her time. That was before a lot of women played poker.
Well, I think that was a great accomplishment, but I was just focused on winning the World Series. I wasn't thinking, oh, no woman has ever done this before.
She came before me and Jennifer and Kathy and all of us. It's so funny because we're sort of considered pioneers in that sense, and really, we don't deserve it. I mean, Barbara was doing that long before we came along.
Enright finished 5th at the 1995 final table, won by Dan Harrington. Annie Duke is the all-time top female money winner at the World Series, but either of the 2 women remaining in the main event can put themselves at the top of that list by making the final table. Leo Margetts is making a strong run, but has a tough decision. Rafit Palovich just put out a 415,000 chip bet on the river with ace high.
Call. Have the flash?
No, he's got squadouche. Pavlich's bluff might have worked if the river card was a blank for Margetts, but it gave her a set.
A set of 9s will take that pot for Margetts.
She loves running marathons, and Margetts is doing quite well in the marathon that is the main event.
Meanwhile, Nicole Pepe is having a tough time today. Her husband, Tad Jurgens, a poker pro, on the rail for support. Nicole on a hand with Tommy Vitas. Each check the turn. River card is a 10 of clubs. Vitas first to act, bet $75,000.
Not gonna do it.
Nicole lays it down. Vitas shows pocket queens.
You gave me free looks though, but I didn't get there.
Pepe with about $800,000, less than half the current chip average. Someone else looking for a little help at the moment, Antonio Esfandiari. His king-queen dominated by Bobby Law's ace-king. Law trying to double up.
Law once owned a bowling alley. He's got my vote.
Now it's time to do what I do best.
Suck out and destroy the dreams of grinded-out poker professionals?
All right, here's the flop. And he did it! Esfandiari flops a straight.
Are you absolutely kidding me?
The magician did what he does best. He waved the wand, flopped the straight, and now Bobby Law in deep trouble.
So the turn card now.
Queen.
Another jack. Doesn't help Law.
Queen one time. Is there a queen in this
Law
deck?
needs a queen to make a higher straight, otherwise he's done.
River's a 7. Esfandiari knocks out Bobby Law.
That's unbelievable. You can do it. That is unbelievable.
It's believable because we just saw it.
Antonio looks guilty, but he'll take the win and now can revel in his newly won chips. A magician indeed. Meanwhile, Phil Ivey at table 2 is faced with a raise from Blair Rodman, a solid poker pro. With the Humphreys watching his every move, Phil deciding whether or not to call Rodman, who shoved with pocket 8s.
Rodman had 12 big blinds left. Ivey needs just a little more than 10% of his stack to call this.
With ace-9 off, he does.
You're not the guy I want to race with.
No, not the way Ivey's hitting flops.
Oh.
All right, let me win a race for a change.
Rodman won a World Series bracelet in 2007.
Here's the flop. King 10-4. Rodman's 8s are still best.
Ivey with 36 career World Series cashes. Rodman has 34.
Turn card now. 6 of hearts. No help to Phil Ivey.
And Phil Ivey will need an ace or a 9 to knock out Blair Rodman.
The river card is a deuce, and Rodman will win the hand to double up.
I hope he enjoys Phil Ivey's chips. Can't win them all, Phil.
I don't like seeing you short over there anyway.
You knew it was coming.
So Blair Rodman will stick with us a little while longer. Back to the feature table now for the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wild card hand. Norman, I hope you've been studying.
Lon, when I walk into a poker room now, people shout, "Norman, what do I have?" And I always know.
On Dennis Phillips with pocket kings.
Dennis is under the gun +1. That's 1 to the left of the first person to act, but you know that, Lon.
$70,000 is the raise from Phillips with those 2 kings.
And when a player raises from early position, it often is with a big pocket pair, just like Dennis has.
And it creates a lot of folds behind, which has happened. Folded to Ty Tran. He has the wild card hand.
Tran finished 14th in a World Series event earlier this year in a field of 2,800.
And from the big blind, he'll call. These two will butt heads again.
Tran knows Dennis might have a big pair. I'm going to put Tran on the exact same hand he had earlier against Dennis, ace-4 suited.
The flop is 10-ace Trey. That ace should concern Dennis a little bit.
When you play pocket kings, you know an ace is going to hit the flop 23% of the time. I think the ace hit Tran.
Tran checks whatever he's got. Phillips now with a bet of $150,000.
Remember on that earlier hand, Tran had aces on the flop and check called with them.
Tran check raises here to $440,000.
I think Dennis just found out his kings are no good. And you know, I've seen that commercial where Jen Harmon mucks her pocket kings when an ace hits the flop. If Dennis watches TV, he'll fold here.
I guess he doesn't have a TV. He makes the call.
Well, he should buy one. But I guess Dennis doesn't believe Tran has an ace.
All right, the turn card now is a 6 of diamonds.
You know, Tran might be a little worried that Phillips called his check raise on the flop.
Action on. Ty Tran, and he checks again.
If Tran's got a weak ace, he might check there because he fears Dennis might have a stronger ace again.
Now Dennis Phillips checks back.
Well, I'm perplexed. If Dennis doesn't think Tran has an ace, why wouldn't he bet there? I think he's got an ace.
So the river card now. 8 of clubs.
Well, no flush out there, and with that board, nobody's going to have a straight. You'd have to have a 9-7 in the hole.
Tran checks again.
Tran still might be checking a weak ace. Phillips could bet here if he thinks his kings are good, but I'd take the freebie now.
Dennis checks.
All right, what does he got?
Tran shows a weak ace. You were right again.
Lon, I'm getting better. One day I might have a winning poker session.
And Tran will take that pot.
I figure you have something like that.
On the Jack Link's Beef Jerky wild card hand.
Put him on kings and check raise.
We even now.
Good hand.
Tran takes down the pot to throw a minor detour in Phillips' road to another final table.
The World Series of Poker, presented by Jack Link's Beef Jerky. Main event.
Welcome back to the Rio. There is the 2009 main event bracelet that will be awarded to this year's champion on November 10th. Our defending champion is having a tough go of it here on day 6, but he's in a lot better shape than the short stack at the table, Joe Seebach.
But he looks good.
You were thinking of going all in, yeah?
Think about it. But you know, it's the main event.
Yeah.
I hate to go out like that. Although, I might be pot committed, you guys.
Yeah, right.
So think about that very carefully.
What do you got, like 230?
I don't have much. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about what I got. Don't worry about what I got, all right?
Seebach's hands easily cover his chips.
And Billy Kopp has everyone covered. He's the chip leader. He's got 8-4.
I think Billy needs a helper to handle his chips.
He folds. Dennis Phillips with King Deuce.
Rags.
Into the muck. Fold that over to short stack Joe Seebach, 6-5.
Joe can't find 2 cards to play on the button, but he really looks good.
On to Peter Eastgate in the small blind. The champ has pocket aces.
In the small blind, with nobody in the hand yet, Eastgate trying to plot how he can take the big blind's money.
Eastgate looks like he's going to start with a raise, makes it $65,000.
A min raise plus 5,000.
Clayton Newman, 22-year-old with 5-4.
Just can't even peel a wheel draw here.
The min raise was too much for Newman.
Newman will lay it down.
Why didn't you show?
What?
Why didn't you show?
Yeah, see, that's why.
Aces?
Eastgate running rough, can't get any action with pocket aces.
A lot of guys at this table looking for help.
For the love of God, please.
You say you folded an ace?
If I had an ace and a Snickers wrapper, that was going in. You believe me.
Yeah, but he might have been dominated by an ace and a Baby Ruth wrapper.
All right, meanwhile, let's get back over to table 2. Phil Ivey with ace tray in the big blind. Called a raise by Ryan Fair, holding 2 deuces, as did the small blind, Andrew Lichtenberger with ace jack. And now we're 3-way to the flop. The flop is queen jack 8. Lichtenberger hits a pair of jacks.
I hate seeing 2% next to Phil Ivey's name.
Lichtenberger with his 2 jacks has the lead. The 21-year-old from New York, one of the best online players around. He checks.
Middle pair, top kicker, and Lichtenberger says no. It's possible Lichtenberger just wary with Ivey behind him. It happens. Ivey checked. He missed the flop. Fair checks as well. Turn card is a 10. Lichtenberger still best with his jacks. There is a straight draw out there. Well, maybe we'll end up with a queen high straight on the board, and everybody will be happy.
Lichtenberger still leads with that pair of jacks, and he checks again.
Again, he doesn't want to take a stab at this pot.
Ivey checks behind.
You know, sometimes the Ivey factor is in play. Nobody wants to bet into him.
And Fair checks as well, so a free river card for all. The river is a tray of hearts. That pairs Ivey, but Lichtenberger earns the check mark.
Lichtenberger and Fair both are poker pros. They should act like it and take a stab at this pot.
With his jacks, he checks again.
Well, it looks like Phil Ivey is saying there's a 250,000 chips out there. If no one wants them, I'll take them.
150,000 says, I want it. Fair folds right away.
Now, Ivey trying to bluff his way through 2 marginal hands. He's got 1 out of the way.
Lichtenberger gives up the best hand, and Ivey will take the pot.
The Ivey factor. I think I have my next book.
Lichtenberger had them both beat the whole way. Fair had Ivey beat until the river. Phil Ivey won the pot only because he's Phil Ivey. So with 89 players, the chip average right now just over 2 million. Tommy Vedas has had a good day. He's in 8th place. Darvin Moon with almost 5.5 million in 3rd, while Billy Kopp is still the one to beat. But there could be a change in that leaderboard. A huge hand in the outer tables. 3.8 million chips at stake. Pocket aces for Darvin Moon, trying to knock out the pocket kings of Jamie Brown.
So they got it all in pre-flop. Brown a poker pro, Moon a logger.
Turn card now is a jack. No help to Brown. Moon still ahead.
And now Jamie Brown down to a 2-outer. Brown will need a king on the river or his day is done.
And the river card is an 8. Darvin Moon's well-timed aces send Jamie Brown out the door in 89th place.
And Lon, our chip leader now, is a logger, and his name is Darvin Moon. It's the main event.
With over 7.5 million chips. To Ludovic Laquet, who's been among the chip leaders for much of the tournament, his pocket king's in trouble against Hamid Nervschan's pocket aces.
Laquet needs a king on the river.
And he got it! And Laquet will double up to Nervschan, who lost half his stack.
There's the main event in a nutshell. Jamie Brown's pocket kings ran into aces, and he's gone. Ludovic Laquet's pocket kings also ran into aces, but he survives with a 2-outer and now has 5.5 million chips.
And is once again among the chip leaders in the main event. Nearby, Antonio Esfandiari is at it again with kings up in the checkmark already. The magician has Wesley Ismay drawing dead after the turn. Action on Antonio. He'll keep the pressure on and bet 720,000.
Antonio raised pre-flop and Ismay re-raised him, and on the flop, Antonio bet with nothing and Ismay called with nothing.
And now Ismay goes all in with nothing.
With 60 big blinds left, plenty to play with, Ismay bluffs all in. It's either brilliant or harebrained, and it puts Esfandiari to the test. This would be for almost all of Antonio's chips.
Antonio takes a close look at his nemesis.
900. Cool.
He calls for over 1 million more. And Ismay is dismayed because he is dismissed.
That was high risk, high reward, and Ismay high risked himself right out of here.
In 88th place, he is gone, much to the delight of Antonio Esfandiari. Maybe he's hypnotizing his opponents. Back at the Rio, only 87 players remain. Darvin Moon still the chip leader. Over at the featured table, Dennis Phillips is talking to some of his many supporters that have flocked to the Rio once again this year.
Sorry, man.
Dennis getting back to the table just in time to play his hand.
In tournament play, if your cards are dealt to you and you're not seated at the table, your hand is dead. Dennis gets back just in the nick of time.
Action folded to Ty Tran with pocket sevens.
Tran attended Houston Community College. I believe they are the Raging Cajuns.
And he raises to 77,000. Is that a tell? Dennis Phillips, boy, is he glad he got back to the table. Pocket aces.
See, Dennis, if you kept talking to your friends, those aces would be in the muck right now. That's one of the reasons I don't have any friends.
Dennis will re-raise to 180,000. Folded to Steve Sanders, 62 years old from Tulsa, Oklahoma, with pocket queens.
Sanders owns several RV parks, and this is a bad time for pocket queens on the button.
He calls for 180,000.
He makes the call from the button.
Small blind Joe Seabach folds, as does Peter Eastgate. Ty Tran with a re-raise to 605,000.
You know, in the old days, Lon, if somebody 4-bet it, they would have pocket aces. But these days, people will try to bluff you with a 4-bet, and Phillips is the one with the aces. It's a dream come true for Dennis Phillips here.
I'm all in.
Yep. He moves all in.
Tran cannot like the sound of that.
That's over 2 million from Dennis Phillips.
If Sanders is a reasonable man, and he looks like a reasonable man, he will muck those queens.
And he does just that. So now back to Tran. He and Dennis have jousted a number of times here.
Tran barely has Phillips covered. He can only call here if he thinks Phillips is making a once-in-a-lifetime audacious move on him.
But the sevens go into the muck, and Phillips takes the pot with aces.
Well, thank goodness we're spared the horn this time.
You spoke too soon.
The horn is back.
The horn is back. The fans are back. Dennis Phillips is back and making a memorable run, reminiscent of a year ago.
Making a final table last year, bringing out 300 and some friends of mine, and celebrating with them was absolutely awesome. These are friends, these are relatives, people I've known, some of them for a year, some of them for 30 years, and they were all out there. I saw a massive sea of white shirts and red hats, and it just kind of sent a shiver down my back.
He and his supporters just lit up this poker theater.
They'd erupt anytime I'd win a hand, anything like that. I just take down the antes and they went nuts. This year, I've already made it farther than anybody thought. It is hard to describe. It is an improbable run. You're not supposed to be able to do this. I don't know whether it's the luck of the cards,
At a monster.
or a combination of a lot of different things. I'm just enjoying it. It's just been awesome. If I would make the final table, the November 9 again this year, I think we'd have to have a different arena, because I'm telling you, I would want everybody there, all the people I've met in the last year. Holy cow. And you would have a party the likes of which Vegas hasn't seen for a while.
If Dennis makes it to the final table again this year, you might see me in a Cardinals jersey and hat, and I hate Tony La Russa.
All right, to the outer tables now. Nicole Pepe's run in the main event might be in jeopardy. She's moved all in pre-flop for her remaining 890,000 chips. Her Aunt Lisa and husband Tad watching anxiously on the rail. Adam York next to act. He will not take on Nicole and folds. So now action to Grayson Ramage. Does he want to call Nicole's all in? And he says no thanks. And Nicole Pepe will hang in there.
Tad has cashed 13 times at the World Series. This is definitely, though, a two-income family.
So Nicole remains in the hunt. Meanwhile, Tom Schneider is collecting chips and his wife Julie rooting for him on the rail.
Stack him, stack him, stack him to the top! Yeah, baby! That's right! Woo!
My wife.
Yeah, well, some of my ex-wives used to cheer me on when I played in a tournament, but they were just in it for the alimony.
A more serious moment nearby is all of Kenny Tran's chips are in the middle pre-flop. Right now, his ace-5 about a 2-to-1 dog to Joe Cotta's pocket eights.
Cotta just 21, trying to knock out one of the most feared players left.
The flop is 4 trade. Cotta still leads, but Tran picks up a gut shot straight draw.
Kenny doesn't get too excited over the draw.
Turn card is a 9, no help to Kenny.
Kenny started his hand with less than 10 big blinds left. He's going to need an ace or a deuce to stick around.
The river is a 6, and that is it for the highly regarded pro Kenny Tran. He will win almost $58,000.
Kenny Tran was 16th at the main event 2 years ago. Another stellar showing.
And as this feared bracelet winner heads for the exit, the main event just got a little safer for the remaining 85 players. Back at the Rio as we take a look at the chip leaders, a few familiar faces. Darvin Moon still the big stack. Billy Kopp right behind him. But now fourth in chips is Phil Ivey. And right behind him, the magician Antonio Esfandiari. And there is the big stack of Darvin Moon.
I don't think a logger from Western Maryland has ever been the chip leader at the main event.
Meanwhile, the day 5 chip leader Matt Affleck has just been knocked out in 80th place by Nick Maimone.
Affleck could not overcome the striped shirt.
He goes from being the big stack to being escorted to the cashier's window. Tom Schneider was among the chip leaders at the beginning of day 6. Now all in against Grayson Ramage. Schneider's ace-king against the ace-queen.
Ace-king is your friend.
I have no friends, so maybe I'll give ace-king a call.
The flop is 4-8-7. Schneider's ace-king still good.
By the way, remember, if ace-king is your friend, ace-queen is your enemy.
It's another 4 on the turn.
Nothing. There.
Oh, my goodness. All right, baby.
If an 8 or a 7 comes, they will split the pot. Ramage can only knock out Schneider with a river queen.
The river is an ace, and Tom Schneider will stick around after doubling up.
That's what you do, baby. Stack them, stack them, stack them to the top. That's right. That's right, baby.
Not even drinking.
I wouldn't be so sure.
The Schneiders certainly have different demeanors in the poker room, but what's the old saying? Sometimes opposites attract.
My wife is a really good player.
He finally admitted to it. Well, about time.
My wife and I are the most competitive married couple, I think, ever.
In 2002, we started dating. Now, we would have been dating 2 years before that, but we were playing poker in the same game, and I had thought he was pretty cute for a while, but he beat me really bad one hand, and he laughed at me, and I just got up from the table, and I was like, okay, well, he's not cute after all.
It's great to have a wife that plays poker. She's great to have around. She's very supportive, but she can be a little bit interesting to have around.
Stack him, to the top. I get him aggravated and crazy, and then he seems to play okay.
We are rolling now. That is this game.
She's constantly high energy.
Keep it going! Keep it going! All the way till tomorrow!
And I'm really trying to maintain calm and peace right now.
When he's on his game, he's just so tough. If he just goes with his instincts, he'll win it.
Julie was a poker dealer for 17 years. Tom says she is his biggest fan and biggest critic, and best I can tell, she's got the biggest mouth in the family.
78 players remain in this Day 6 field. Among them, the November 9 duo of Dennis Phillips and Peter Eastgate at the feature table. Phillips with a little more than the chip average right now. Eastgate with less than 1/5 of the chip average. Action will be on Billy Kopp. His chip stack second best to Darvin Moon. He has pocket eights.
Kopp is a 6th-year senior at the University of Kentucky. Heck, I finished Maryland in 5.5 years. How hard can Kentucky be?
Kopp raised to 105,000. Phillips with king-queen suited.
I've never had much luck with the suited king-queen. I no longer play them.
Phillips will try, he calls. Joe Seabuck folds. Now Peter Eastgate.
In the small blind.
Ace-jack offsuit.
I'm all in.
And the defending champ's going to move all in.
Peter Eastgate with 11 big blinds left pushes with the ace. Eastgate hoping he can get it to heads up, but he doesn't have enough chips to protect his hand.
Kopp makes the call. Now to Phillips. Phillips will join the party, and so Eastgate's going to have to beat 2 players to survive.
The defending champ, youngest champ ever, now at risk.
All right, 3-way to the flop. It is 6 ace 4. Eastgate hits his ace to take the advantage.
Great flop for Eastgate. Nothing in that flop for the other 2 to bet.
Check.
Kopp and Phillips both check. The defending champ in good shape to triple up here. Turned card is a jack. Eastgate now with aces up.
But big draws out there now. Kopp could hit a flush. Phillips could hit a straight. Eastgate's main event life at risk.
Check, check again. Peter Eastgate's main event fate hangs on the river. The river card is a heart. Kopp hits the flush. Peter Eastgate's title defense is about to end. Still business between Phillips and Kopp.
Check.
I check.
They check it down.
You got a heart? Anyone?
No.
But Kopp shows Peter Eastgate the bad news. And Dennis Phillips will watch his final table mate, Peter Eastgate, take his final bow.
What a great, great defense of his title.
Peter Eastgate goes out in 78th place.
A class act, and he played very well.
Kopp knocked out 2 past champs, Joe Hashem and now Eastgate, and that leaves Dennis Phillips as the sole November 9 survivor. From a nobody to nobody can beat this guy, but now Peter Eastgate's extraordinary 2-year main event run has finally come to an end, and what a thrilling ride the 2008 World Champ gave us all.
The World Series of Poker, presented by Jackling's Beef Jerky. Main event.
Welcome back to the Rio Poker Room. Our featured table has broken. Dennis Phillips, who has a little over 1.6 million chips, ended up at a table that now includes Tom Schneider, who's had an up, down, and up day. And the table already had the chip leader, Darvin Moon. So once again, we do have a loaded featured table.
I'll be Darvin for a day, particularly this day.
It's been every day. It's been a run that's unreal.
That's Scott Bowman with Chip Envy.
This is Darvin's first time in Las Vegas, and to get here, he took his first real jet flight. And since he's been here, he says he has doubled and tripled his stack every day at the main event.
DMWD. Don't mess with Darvin.
Yeah, few big stacks have and failed.
Weapons of mass Darvin is what they should call him.
That's chuckled. He hasn't met Darvin yet. Evidently not.
Action on Tom Schneider.
On the button.
Jack Link's Beef Jerky pocket cam shows ace-jack offsuit. And Schneider will raise to 110,000. Phillips with 2 queens.
Dennis Phillips picks up another big hand.
And Dennis wants to repop it to 310,000. Now to Darvin Moon in the big blind. Ace-king.
Another big hand. 2 raises in front of Darvin Moon.
2 strong players in front of Darvin Moon.
Raise.
Of course, a re-raise from Darvin Moon.
The big stack 4 bets it, and I can tell you Tom Schneider won't be long for this hand.
Moon makes it 675,000 to go. Schneider folds.
Weapons of mass Darvin.
Now does Dennis Phillips want a tango with Darvin Moon?
Dennis with a big hand, but he's out of position against a player that can bust him, and that player just repopped him.
Dennis Phillips will call.
So it'll be Darvin Moon versus Dennis Phillips, the everyman against the everyman.
Here's the flop. 8-4 ace. Darvin hit his ace.
Darvin says he's been running good, and indeed, 2 aces left on the deck. He hits one.
Phillips with pocket queens. He's not going to commit anything yet. He checks. Darvin reaching for part of his big stack. That's $750,000.
That bet would be for most of Dennis Phillips' remaining stack.
God, I wish I'd been playing with him for a while. You got 7 guys over here talking about how you're catching every card in the deck. I have no idea if you're pushing me around or not.
Dennis wishes he had some type of history against Darvin, but he has none.
So the old adage, are you going to show me if I fold this?
I'll show you.
You will show me.
Either way. I'd rather you call, but I'll show you.
Darvin very comfortable.
All right, I'm going to survive another day.
Dennis will retreat and shows his queens.
Ace king. Pocket queens, lays them down.
Ace king.
Darvin gives away a little information, but maybe he's neighborly.
Moon's big stack now even larger.
All right, thank you.
Ian Phillips, 2 gentlemen seemingly cut from the same cloth, now sharing the limelight at this featured table. Over to table 2. On the button, Phil Ivey called a re-raise from Kent Goulding, who's in the big blind. Now the 2 are going heads up to the flop. The flop is deuce 4 queen. Goulding with a pair of queens. Ivey with a heart flush draw.
Goulding with a lot of experience playing backgammon, chess, and slot machines.
Check.
He checks, top pair.
Ivey had tried to steal the blinds. Now he's going to semi-bluff at it.
Try to steal this pot. That's enough to put Goulding all in. And with top pair, Goulding says, okay, let's go.
Uh-oh.
How often do you hear that, Norman?
Just a queen.
Just a queen is good enough. Ivey with just a draw. The best player sometimes is behind. And boy, I do hate hearing Ivey say, uh-oh.
Oh, yeah. All right, Goulding at risk. Turn card is a 9. He's still good, but not out of danger.
Well, now Ivey can only knock out Kent Goulding with a river heart.
The river card is a heart! Ivey rivers the flush to put Kent Goulding on the rail in 77th place.
Ivey takes down another victim. Earlier in the main event, he was knocking them out from ahead. Now he's coming from behind.
That's why you did it.
How do you beat this guy? Meanwhile, out in the field, one of the 2 remaining women is at risk, and it's Nicole Pepe, who's all in, and she's in a lot of trouble. With Jack 4 of hearts against the pocket aces of Adam York.
Pepe was short-stacked and pushed and ran right into pocket aces.
Well, Phil Ivey collected a few hearts on the board. Maybe Pepe can do that to survive.
Well, I don't like this guy drinking when he's in the process of knocking out Nicole. It's disrespectful.
Nicole's husband has added Julie Schneider to their cheering section. Nicole Pepe looking for something in the flop to give her hope. And now the flop, 7-7 deuce, 1 heart in there.
But not the flop Nicole Pepe was looking for. It is all but over.
Ace is up for York. Turn card is a 6, and that's going to do it. Nicole Pepe drawing dead and knocked out at the 2009 main event in 75th place.
Great run for Pepe. Boy, she played well.
She'll win almost $69,000 for her efforts, and that means that Leo Marguets of Spain is now the last woman remaining in this field.
You played amazing, honestly. Thank you so much. You played amazing, honestly.
The last 2 women share a moment of congratulations. Marguets with more work to be done. But for Nicole Pepe, this was by far the finest hour of her tournament poker career. Quite an impressive feat. Back in the Rio Poker Room with a leaderboard update, Darvin Moon remains the man to catch with $9.7 million. Phil Ivey in 3rd place with $6.3 million. Antonio Esfandiari still in the top 10. Prahlad Friedman, who's been short-stacked for much of the day, has a chance to double up right now. His pocket 10's ahead after the flop against the ace-king of Francois Palmigère.
Palmigère, the poker coach from France.
Turn card now is a 6.
Straight draw?
Yeah, Prahlad picks up an irrelevant straight draw.
Palmigère can knock out Prahlad Friedman with a river ace or king.
The river card. Oh, he flinched at the face card, but it's only a queen, and Prahlad Friedman will double up to $1.5 million.
The French once gave us the Statue of Liberty. Now they give Prahlad the freedom of a double-up.
but he's still only got about half of the chip average. To Jeff Schulman, who's had a very profitable day 6. Here, he's bet $300,000 on the river. Action on Hamid Nurafshan. Nurafshan makes the call. Schulman chose pocket deuces for a rivered full boat.
It appears to me that Jeff Schulman got there on the river.
And now he's got $4.7 million.
He could use a good shave.
To a clean-shaven Antonio Esfandiari, who's had a great day of his own. He's in a hand against Andreas Flachstad, who needs help on the river to survive.
Esfandiari shields his eyes. Flachstad needs to see a 10.
The river card is a queen. Flachstad is gone. Esfandiari does his magic again.
Yeah, a good day gets even better for Antonio.
And with that elimination, he moves into 6th place overall. Action over now to table 2 once again. Phil Ivey raised to $110,000 in middle position with Jack 10 off. Ryan Fair called from the button with 10-9 of hearts. Action right now on the small blind. James Aikenhead with ace 10 off suit. Aikenhead re-raises to $390,000.
That's a healthy re-raise with ace 10 off from the British pro. And if I may advise Mr. Ivey, let's not ship any more chips unnecessarily overseas. Let's fold and play the next hand.
You are Norman Chad. He is Phil Ivey. A re-raise to $990,000.
It's a brave new world out there, Lon. My man, against my wishes, just 4-bet it with Jack 10 off.
Fair gets out of the way. Now to Aikenhead.
I don't think Aikenhead can call. He's out of position, and he's Phil Ivey.
Aikenhead with a last glance before the fold. Phil Ivey wins every which way.
I gotta tell you, Ivey's got a 6th sense, a 7th sense, multiple senses. He plays better than I do.
You brought out the bat on that one.
You know I can have a hand once in a while, right?
You can, but you didn't have one that time. You're the man.
His aggressive play paying dividends at table 2 as he seeks that bracelet, the main event bracelet, which would be his 8th. Action here at the featured table on Dennis Phillips. Phillips looks down at pocket aces. He limps in for $40,000.
Up from middle position, Dennis in a trapping mood.
Darvin Moon, queen deuce, he won't play. Action folds to Chris Bach on the button. King 8 of clubs.
Bach, the Southern California consultant who used to sell used cars.
And with that suited king, a raise to $110,000.
Dennis Phillips gets what he wants.
Folded over to Fernando Gordo. Ace-queen offsuit in the big blind.
Ace-queen is a loser, sir. I've made this very clear very often this year.
But he will call for $70,000, so the Bach re-raise back to Phillips. And Dennis and his aces re-pop it to $340,000.
Dennis waits no longer to spring his trap.
I was just kidding.
And Bach says, no thanks.
He's a kidder.
Now back to Gordo with ace-queen.
Gordo looks like he's not kidding. Does he really want to play against Phillips' re-raise?
He says, yep, I will call.
Well, you're on your own, sir. I am no longer responsible for your fate.
The flop, deuce, 4, deuce. Ace is up for Phillips.
That's a very comfortable flop for Dennis Phillips.
1% shot for Gordo.
Come on.
But all in with ace-queen. And Phillips with the immediate call.
This self-destruction baffles me, Lon. You miss the flop completely, and you push all in against a solid player who's got to have a hand.
Dennis Phillips on the verge of a $2.6 million chip shot in the arm at the end of day 6 here. The turn card. 8 of diamonds, and that will end it. Gordo drawing dead and eliminated by Dennis Phillips.
Well done. 7. That's well done.
Well done, but ace-queen is a loser.
Gordo out. Phillips' aces get paid off.
How you do that? I don't know. That's just...
I don't know. I play a hell of a lot of hands for one time. And then every now and then you have a good one.
Another good hand for Phillips keeps his hopes high for completing the incredible feat of back-to-back main event final tables. Day 6 was unkind to many, including Nicole Pepe, leaving Leo Margetts as the last woman standing.
If I think too much about it, it's like being on a cloud.
Players' spirits and their stacks are reaching toward the sky.
Stack 'em, stack 'em, stack 'em to the top!
And no one is stacking them higher than Darvin Moon, and this logger's reputation is spreading like wildfire.
Don't mess with Darvin.
But today, all eyes were on the reunion of the November 9 duo. And while Peter Eastgate's pursuit of back-to-back main event titles came to an end, Dennis Phillips' quest for a return to the final table continues.
What could be better? Life is good.
Now only 64 players remain, each one step closer to the final table and the most coveted title in poker.
Mark my words, I'm going to get there.
For Norman Chad, I'm Lon McCarran. See you next time from the World Series of Poker.